Hey everyone, this is the third episode of Chats with Chels. So this one, this guy might be familiar to some of my friends in Miramichi and to some of my friends here in St. John's. This is Justin Barbour. So Justin, you want to tell us a little bit about what the cool thing is that got you here today?
Yeah, I guess Chels gave me a shout. She was interested in my little short walk I made across Newfoundland, I guess.
Short walk, short.
Right?
How many kilometers?
700, about, something like that. 699.
When I was in Australia, there was a day that I did like 25 and I was a grouch.
Yeah,
so 700 would be...
It's warm down there.
Yeah,
right?
it is warm
I will be
down
too.
there. But it was, I could not imagine the full 700.
Yeah, it was quite the haul for sure. But you know, break it up into little steps along the way. Baby steps, small goals. I didn't try to cover 700 in 2 or 3 days or nothing, of course, which is impossible. But you know, it's all about setting small goals and makes it a little more possible.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So, like I said, some of my friends in Miramichi may recognize you, and how is that?
It's good. Yeah, I mean, if anyone up there is watching, I spent 4 years in Miramichi, so. Made lots of friends. Haven't been back since, unfortunately, but I'd like to sooner than later.
You got to bring your fishing rod.
Right, getting the Miramichi River. It's supposed to be, one of the best in the world. And I wasn't really into this stuff as much when I was up there. It was just, I guess, hockey, and have a beer here or there. But I didn't really get the time to get out on the river. But I'd like to get back for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of good salmon fishing there for sure. I guess you probably had a little bit of fishing experience on your trip. Yeah,
a few fish caught, right? We like to rely on them when we could along the way. I mean, I'm an avid trouter, you say here in Newfoundland, right? But lots of fish caught, no doubt, right? I think it was well over 100, and we ate like 61. Right? Lots of time to take stats out there.
lots of fish oil, must have really healthy hair.
Yeah, I've never felt better, to be honest with you. That's the truth. I tell people that.
So, how did you ever decide I'm going to walk 700 kilometers through Newfoundland?
Well, it was a bit of a process. Like, it's tough to answer that one in a short amount of time. But no, it's kind of a build-up of things that have happened over the last probably 5 years of my life. I mean, I was always, a lover of the outdoors and nature and just, spending time out there. When I was a child, growing up in Ballineen, you know where Ballineen is? It's probably about 10-15 minutes beyond Torbay, down by Pooch Cove, where the Marine Drive Park is.
Okay, yeah.
Anyways, down that route, but I grew up and spent a lot of time outdoors, and but then, of course, what got me in Miramichi was hockey, and I played hockey from when I was 6 or 7 years old, or it was actually 4, but it started becoming busy when I was only 7 or 8, playing like 7 days a week. And that's all it was until I ended up, playing some junior in Miramichi, and I came home. The only time I'd ever go, prior in my life, in my hockey years, the only time I'd ever go outdoors was like Labor Day or something. I'd go to my cabin, my grandparents' cabin out by Gander, and that was it. But I came home from Miramichi, started playing some senior hockey here in Newfoundland, and I did a phys ed course at Munn. I'm a teacher, by the way, substituting at the moment, but I did a phys ed degree, and part of that there was a canoeing course. And that was my second year. I think it was 2012 now, 5 years ago. So our class went in off the Salmon line. 2 of our profs brought us in, and we spent 2 nights just, doing some basic survival stuff, learning a canoe stroke. That was the first time I was in a canoe in my life.
Oh my goodness.
And from there the hook was in, and I started planning little trips and going out with buddies and whatnot. And then eventually I just kind of got a little crazy and wanted to push things a little further and go a little harder. I planned a trip across the Avalon Wilderness area. It was 120 kilometers. I left from Trepassey, if you know where Trepassey is, and went all the way to Salmon Line at Peak Pond. It was around 120 kilometers. I backpacked and canoed. And I got a little video up on my site actually of that trip that I done. It was around 30 minutes long, but check that out. Anyways, I done that trip, and as soon as I got back, everyone was kind of like, you went and did that on your own for 14 days. It was quite the haul. And they're like, did you get that out of your system, right? I was on my own. It was just, you kept busy out there. You're going. and not a whole lot of time to sit down and reflect on, wanting other people there. But yeah, I got back and people were like, is that your system? My girlfriend, my parents, my friends, and I was like, no, like I want something bigger now. Like this is crazy. It's kind of thrilling to be out there, and of course loving the outdoors, loving the challenges as an athlete throughout my life. And yeah, I went to Cartwright and taught for a full year. And again, like I said, it's a long story. And when I was in Cartwright, I started, this was a few months after this Avalon trip, I said, I want to do something bigger. And I thought about, Newfoundland. It was big. I was after reading books and watching documentaries on people like crossing the Amazon jungle and like going to the North Pole, the South Pole. A guy who went around the world at the equator, so he circumnavigated, all self-propelled, went across the ocean on sailboats. And he paddled on a small kind of board through the Amazon River. Anyways, crazy journey. He biked. So I just got hooked in like some of this trapper, like The Lure of the Labrador Wild. There's a book on trappers, not trappers, stories, two guys from New York who adventured up in Labrador. And just all this, inspiration wanted me to do a big trip for myself and do something, crazy. And that's what I did. So that's kind of, in a nutshell.
The long and short of it.
Right? Yeah, it was just something I wanted to do, and I decided to plan
there's
it.
a lot of planning that went into it.
There was, yeah. Like I said, Cartwright I went up there the end of the fall of 2015, and I did my trip, April 2017. So it was almost 2 years of me scheming this thing up, but
so as a teacher,
it's a bit of a puzzle.
Do you bring that into the classroom? Get the kids outside?
Well, yeah, when I was in Labrador, I got them out and, had a fire and a couple of hikes, and we built Quincy's, which is like basically an igloo you can sleep in, right? And, did some other things, but, since I've gone on this trip, I've just been substituting. So as a substitute, I can't really go in and take them out and do this, but, I do encourage them to get outdoors and just, go after something they want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But so yeah, because I'm subbing now, and I'm substituting and got some other things, little projects I'm working at. So it's kind of good. It's like a part-time thing for me. I can sub and work on some of my footage and other things I'm at. But yeah,
you seem to have some pretty great videos on your website. So they kind of display your journey. What was the average day like for you?
The average day was long, right? But I don't like to complain because I enjoy the stuff, so don't complain too much. But the average day was, get up, have my coffee, my breakfast and stuff, and pack up, which is an hour or 2 hour process. But after a while, it's kind of like tying your shoes in the morning, same thing. Yeah, and then get on the move and move for 7, 8, 9 hours. I mean, if the weather's good, some days we're cut short, 2 and 3 hours, or, I may have been feeling it, or I thought Saku, my dog, was, looking tired. So, but the average day was probably 7 or 8 hours, and I'd move, and then probably 2, 3 hours before dark, at, the earliest. You need at least an hour or two to set camp up, right? So, an hour or 2 or 3 hours before dark, I'd stop and set up my next site for, to continue on.
I know that when I'm traveling, there's like some days where I'm just like in like another country. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to give up. I'm going to like throw in the towel. I'm like texting my mom. I'm like, I'm going home. Like, you just kind of get lonely sometimes if you're traveling alone. So what would you say one of your biggest challenges of the road was? Or I guess the trail. Yeah,
like the being alone factor, I take pride in saying it doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, I don't know, it was nice having the dog there in Saku, and that was important for the morale and the companionship, and sometimes people drive you nuts anyways. Dog's man's best friend, right?
I know.
But there's no one to get in your way. You do what you want, and you're your own boss, and you have freedom.
I noticed that too. Once you like start traveling alone and then you get on trips with other people, you're just not on the same pace, or you're like walk faster, or they're walking too fast for you.
Yeah, you feel obligated to do things that you don't want. Now I'm a team guy, and I'm all about doing things together. And I ran this idea by some of my close friends, and it's a tough one to commit to. People have jobs, people aren't half crazy, so I took Saku, and that was fun. You're kept busy, as I said there earlier. I mean, it's not like you're sitting on a tree stump twiddling your thumbs. I mean, I'm from moving and actually doing the physical aspect to get the camp and cutting wood and putting up tents and feeding Saku and you know, spending time in the evening to go over my maps to plan out the route for the next day. It's almost like a job, right?
I heard you may have lost a pan along the way.
A pan? Yeah, I lost one of my pots, is that what you say?
Pots, yeah.
Yeah, I did lose a pot, you know, in a river. That kind of, I leaned over the side of an icy river back in late April in the Long Range Mountains, and the currents just took my well, I had two pots, a kettle and a pot. Anyways, it took my pot, it was gone. I had one kettle I ate from and drank from for the rest of the 62 days, right?
Oh,
so
my
one
gosh.
kettle, but yeah, the challenges were, I mean, yeah, I didn't feel lonely. It's the distance, just going continually day after day. That was the longest trip. I mean, I had done 120k in the Avalon, that trip I talked about earlier. But to go from 120 to 70 or 700 kilometers, which is what, like 6 times the distance, I think, something like that, right? Good at math, and yeah, so that was a big thing, right? No doubt. So many challenges, but that's one off the top of my head.
One
no
off the
doubt.
top.
Yeah.
So before you went, you did a lot of planning. So did you approach sponsors to sponsor you for your trip, or was that kind of something that came afterward?
A little bit. It's kind of tough when you're trying to establish yourself to go out and just ask, you know, people for money when, you know, they don't know much about you. It's not like I was after walking across the Arctic or something and I did something extravagant before, right? So, you know, you gotta gain a following and all this stuff before you do that. But I did get some help locally. Like Subaru reached out and gave me a sponsor. I had known someone who worked there. They're all about the adventure thing, right? Their vehicles. The outfitters helped me a little bit out locally. Just some local businesses, like, you know, family, friends and stuff who liked the idea and just wanted to help. They knew it was an expensive endeavor. Yeah. Something like around $10,000 it cost me, and a lot of that was camera gear and stuff too. My raft was very expensive, but I did get a lot of new equipment. Yeah, so some locally, you know, like Dominion, my mom works there. She hooked me up with a couple of $100 towards food, which was nice.
So how do you reach out to them?
You know, some emailing. You know, I guess I cold called a couple. You know, companies in the States, you know, like MSR and these bigger companies, but I never got nothing from it. Like, I applied for a grant from Canadian Geographic. That was a big thing. I put a fair bit of time into. Expedition grant. You know, they roughly give you around $5,000. Now, they only select 5 to 10 groups across Canada per year. You know, Newfoundland is way over here in the Atlantic. I think we get forgotten about. I don't know, or maybe it wasn't appealing enough to them, but I didn't get that. I put a bit of time into that, but so that was a thing. They would have published my trip in the magazine after, so, you know, maybe the next one. But yeah, so a couple things, but it's important.
But since you've come back, you have grown quite a following locally and across Canada. So how did you go about that?
I think the big thing there was the social media, of course. Well, that's where it all started. Now, got shared by some CBC articles and Telegram articles and stuff like that. What it was, again, it was for this grant for Canadian Geographic. They wanted, you know, a part of applying for it, you had to start a Facebook page for the trip.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know, I was like, yeah, cool, I got that going. And, yeah, I put a little video up there. It was about a 3-minute trailer of other footage I had done on earlier trips. You may have seen it. Yeah. And I posted that, and all of a sudden it got shared like hundreds of times and hundreds. And then I had like, I mean, you know, I knew it was kind of a big thing and it's not your normal everyday, you know, type of living. So I figured it would gather some attention, but like it kind of spread like a wildfire, and I had like CBC and like CBC Radio and NTV and VOCM and even CBC out in Manitoba. I did a thing for them, and yeah, so it kind of spread quickly, and yeah, and I appreciate all the support that people gave me. You know, people followed me along the way, and that was nice and gave me some extra motivation too. So I'm glad I could, you know, I could use that help, and glad I could entertain people too. So
people are looking for your social media so that they can follow you. What would they go to look for?
Well, I'm on, you know, I'm on Instagram, you know, and Twitter and Facebook. I mean, Twitter's not, I get a little bit of action there, but I think it's kind of, you know, it fades off a little bit. But I'm on Instagram at NLExplorer88. I'm on Twitter at NLExplorer88 as well. That's just a little, you know, name I made up for myself, right? You know,
pretty accurate.
Self-proclaimed, right? Well, I don't know. I was just, thought it might fit me. But, yeah, and Facebook is Newfoundland West to East for the Love of the Rock, which I've been kind of trying to change to like Justin Barbour's Adventures, but Facebook won't let me do it. They say it's not, doesn't align with my original name, and my followers will be confused. But I might have to call them or something. Like, I don't know what's going on. Because it's a bit long now, right? I don't really want to shift over to a new group because I may not get all the people come out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I'm on YouTube, Justin Barbour. I had 3 or 4 longer videos done before I left, and now I'm trying to do up like 1 a month just to keep, show some tips and get people inspired to do their own adventures, right? And I got a blog as well, so there's a bunch of you can maybe post them in the link. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely will, because I'm sure everyone's going to be wondering how they can find this stuff out about you. So if you were given advice to someone who was going to do something similar. They're like, I want to go on a really long walk, or I want to pursue this really big goal. What would your advice or tips be?
That's what I like to relate it to is not only just going, outdoors or the wilderness, just chasing any big goal is, because I was doing something that, most people were like, why the hell would you want to do it? Especially in Newfoundland, where most people move self-propelled by ATVs and skidoos and all this kind of stuff. And boats, and like the adventure scene isn't as big as it should be. But people were kind of rolling their eyes, being like, "Why the hell would he do that?" And like, so I had a lot of even like some people close to me were kind of like, why, and I just said, this is something I want to do. I love the challenge. I love being challenged physically and mentally as an athlete. And I love the outdoors, and I just kind of said, I'm going to go after it because I want to do it. I kind of stopped worrying about what other people thought or their views, and that's important when you want to do anything. And it's also taking the risk to go out and do something. I took a lot of actual risks out there, so I mean, it doesn't always have to be that risky, but just the risk of like, starting your own business or doing something that, you're not overly confident in. But I think the most important thing is getting it out there and doing it. And,
taking the leap.
Right? And it's not all going to be great, but it's going to get better as you move on. So it's important to just keep pushing it out there, and with the power of social media, you have the ability to share anything to the world, right? So, but with regards to hikes and stuff, I mean, start small with that stuff. Don't, bite off more than you can chew, because you'll turn yourself away from it, right? I mean, people now have hiked and done like the East Coast Trail and all this stuff. They've done a lot of hard things and they would know, but people who just want to get into this, like, start small. Don't go like trying to do like 50 kilometers in 2 days, like, right? Like, go for a couple hikes and get used to having the right gear and the things you think you need. Research online. I mean, I have some stuff on my site too that people can look at, but that's being prepared is a big part of the process. But
yeah, so, I think that's super true. I know, even traveling myself, it's a lot of, you're a girl, you're gonna go there alone, oh my god, like some of the things that even I've heard. And I wasn't taking off alone into the wilderness. I was going to like downtown London.
Europe, wasn't it?
I've been to Europe, to Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Morocco.
So you were backpacking?
In a couple places, yeah.
Oh, okay, on your own?
Yeah. And
I think I've seen that online, yeah.
Just to your gear standard, first trip that I went to Europe, I had a bag. It was not a very good bag.
How many liters?
I have no idea. It was,
got the job done.
It had a wheelie thing, because I was like, that's going to be so great for traveling, flying. Won't have to carry my bag all the time.
I hear you.
Halfway through, the zipper that covered the wheels, or covered the handle, or straps broke, so then you couldn't tow the bag anymore.
Oh,
so it had to be carried all the time, so the extra weight was not worth it.
Yeah.
So my next trip, I invested in a 50-liter North Face bag.
Yeah.
I've never looked back. It's made a pretty big difference.
You've learned your lesson, right?
I learned my lesson.
And that's what it is, getting out there and trying things like that. You learn that I need a better bag, right?
Yeah.
Or if something doesn't work out and you're advertising, I need to advertise better. It all relates at each level, right? But that sounds like a cool trip solo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting, right? But I'm sure you felt a little nervous, a little scared leaving, right? Like,
yeah, it's funny.
Excited,
I think one of the most nervous ones was this year I decided to go to Thailand. That was my first trip to Asia. and I was doing some more of Europe, more of Asia too, and I was on the flight. It was a 16.5-hour flight from San Francisco to Hong Kong, and that was like 16.5 hours just to think about like, why have I done this to myself? But it actually is like one of my favorite countries that I've been to.
Yeah, right. It's all about experiences, isn't it? Like,
It
getting
is.
out there and seeing, that helps you as a person, you know, more than most people can imagine, you know.
I think the hint or the tip is to try not to overthink it, because you worry yourself up about these things, and then you know, once you're there, you have no choice. You can't turn back.
Mental's huge in everything you do, no doubt. You just got to do it and roll the dice, I say, you know. Take the chance, and if you fail at it, you know, try something else. And hopefully you won't fail at that, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of how I look at things anyways.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
I appreciate it.
And
pleasure.
we'll post the links so that you guys can give Justin a follow.
Thank you.